downtown districts and neighborhood commercial districts. There we go. But there are some facts of life, some things you need to know about downtown revitalization and district revitalization is most of your resources are going to be local. Everybody's thinking there's just this huge pot of money, and there isn't from the public or even the federal side, even though some federal money has been put into the district with the 16th Street Baptist Church. They got a Partners Preservation grant not long ago. I know the Alabama Theater's a little outside of the district, but that also got a Partners in Preservation grant. But most of them are going to be local. We're going to have to be very concerned about how we're going to get those coalitions together to think in a common way. But it does create that culture and that priority for renewal. And if I had a magic wand, guys, I would, it would be so much easier if we had that, but there isn't. So we're going to have to figure out how those resources are going to be found. The four-point approach, and everybody will be up here talking about the different parts of the four-point approach, and we have them up here on our banners too. But it's organization, and Dion and I are going to talk a little bit about organization, but organization is really getting everybody singing out of the same songbook. You're not always going to be singing the same song, but if you can harmonize, that would really be nice. So the big thing on organization is making sure that people understand the importance of the district and how we're going to take it forward from here. So that's what organization is about. The next one is design, and design's about everything visual. It's about the impressions that you get when you walk up the sidewalks, when you're crossing the streets, by how fast the traffic moves, and of course your beautiful architecture and buildings. Economic vitality is the businesses that are within the district, and when we work with you guys, we want to make sure that we work with the existing businesses first to help strengthen them before we really start looking at recruiting new businesses in the district. But as we've been meeting over this last week, we've met with some younger entrepreneurs who are very excited about doing some things within the district itself. So we're hoping that you'll be able to work on both at the same time. And then promotion is really introducing, or in some cases reintroducing the district to people who haven't been here for a very long time as a great place to work, live, play, eat, and shop. So promotion, and each of them will go much deeper into those points, but I wanted to give you just a quick overview. This clicker doesn't like me. Here we go. Here we go. So there are 8 guiding principles with the National Mainstreet Summit. You need to be comprehensive, which means you need to work as equally as you can. You need to be looking at the assets that you have in the district. And it's sometimes hard for people who see it every day to see the assets that you have here. You're going to hear us talking a lot tonight about the assets that we've seen while we've been here. It's about quality. You really need to rein back the quantity of things that you do and make sure you have good quality in what you do. It's going to mean change. It's not going to change unless you and the district think differently than you have in the past. So that's really important. It's going to be incremental. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a lot of self-help, a lot of partnerships, and the best part of the 8 guiding principles to me is implementation. This district has been planned to death. You've had a lot of planning, a lot of people coming in studying you. We're going to give you some more ideas, but we really want to take in hand the good studies, the good things that have already happened here, and instead of trying to do another study, let's get some stuff done. Let's talk about implementation. So in each of these presentations tonight, you're going to hear us talk about things that you can start doing today. But we're also going to talk about some big ideas that you can work into the future. So the first of the 4 points is organization. And when you talk about organization, I've already told you a little bit, it's singing out of the same songbook, but it's also about that continued community engagement, governing documents, volunteer management, public relations, partnerships, and fundraising. So Dion and I kind of worked on this point. If you want to introduce yourself while I'm getting...
Certainly.
See if I can...
So hello everyone, I may have said hello to some of you, and I've been meeting with a lot of you today. My name is Dion Bowe. I am the director of our Urban Maine program with the National Main Street Center. So we're really happy to be here working in this district and working with the Alabama Main Street team, as we are going to bring a lot of examples of what I've seen in some of the districts that I work in on organization. I'll turn it back over to you.
So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth since we both worked on this part, but you got to have some governing documents. I do think it's important to look at an MOU, a memorandum of understanding between other organizations within the city that are doing similar work. There's enough work to be done in Birmingham that none of us need to be worrying about our piece of the pie. We all need to be working together, but I do think it's important to have that MOU in place So you're not stomping on each other, so people know where they're going. So those governing documents are really important. I think the next one is yours.
Yeah.
Boy, it's really hard to read.
Yeah, it's very hard. And I'm sure you guys can't see it, but there is a picture in the middle, and this is of our District Bridges Main Street in Washington, D.C. So as I said, some of the examples that I will bring you will be from our urban districts. But some of the things that you really need to think about when you're thinking about organization is really fostering that community engagement. How are you getting these rooms filled with individuals and then know what's happening? As Mary indicated, that you don't all have to sing the same song, but you can hum the words together, because I never know the words of any song. And you also want to make certain that you have diversified funding sources. That's really important about organization. What are the funding sources that are supporting this work to make sure that it's sustainable? It can't only be government, it can't only be philanthropic, and it cannot only be from membership or donations. So you really need to have a really balanced budget to make sure it is sustainable. And then finally, how do people know about your meetings, the work that you're doing? How are you communicating that information? How is that being shared? Is it being shared through social media, flyering, all of those things? So we're going to give you a few examples today of some things that we've seen that works really well in the communities that I work in. I don't have the clicker, and I don't know where you are. There you go. Thank you. So when you're thinking about engaging a community, this box right here is a really good tool, and I know you may not be able to see the website at the bottom, but it's a community toolkit, and it really thinks about the barriers that you need to think about when you're engaging a community. How are you going to reach a low-income population? How are you reaching your seniors? How are you reaching the youth? So really being thoughtful about various ways of communicating with people in your community, but also understanding when you're hosting a community meeting, always having either food, or if if individuals aren't coming to those meetings because of childcare issues, ensuring that there are crayons or a coloring book to keep the kids busy. Really starting to think about those things when you're planning your meetings. Next slide. So what I'm showing you here is I worked with the Woodlawn community last year. And the Woodlawn community with Rev Birmingham has a community organizer that works directly in the neighborhood. And as they started to think about organization, they really wanted to build consensus amongst the Woodlawn residents in Birmingham. But where they started, and I thought this was very interesting, is they thought about radical empathy, right? So it means, like, where are you coming from? What's your culture? Why are you doing this work? And starting at the grassroots level to make sure that people in the community see this and own this as their project. Again, we can give you the framework, but this has to be owned by the community. And then finally, they bring in the community culture to ensure that they're always making certain that they are being true to the community that they're working in. Next slide. So I think there are really good attributes that they develop when they think about engaging the community. How do you attract individuals, right? So that's the public engagement piece of it, the really announcing. But then understanding, once you have those one-to-ones with individuals, what are their individual skill sets? Everyone has a skill. If it's photography, if it's economic development, is it marketing? Understanding how to leverage those skills. Is it resources and relationships that they can bring to bear for this work? So being certain that you're thinking about that as you are engaging the community. And all of this starts with trust. I don't care anything else, if you don't walk away with anything else today, ensure that you are building trust as a part of this work. And from there, then the community culture is always going to show up, because you're going to be authentic to the community that you're working in. So what Woodlawn did is they started hosting porch parties, because that's unique to their community. There are a number of different porches, or people or communities, houses with porches. And so what the facilitator did was she started hosting parties on the porch, going there to understand who are the entrepreneurs in the community. What would you like to see in the community? She started meeting people where they were, at their house. That's the process that she utilized to really engage the community. And that's also how she got out, what are the upcoming events that are happening, going porch to porch to porch. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to be the process that you will use in the historic 4th Avenue district, But that is just an example of they utilize what they had. That's an asset that they have in their community, and that's how they were able to reach the community. Next slide.
So as we kind of talked through this, Dion and I were talking through this a little bit, it is important for you to think about how you can engage in your district. And honestly, we're doing it right here.
Yes.
Where one of the biggest opportunities for you to engage in this district are through the churches. So take some time and make sure that that part is being added to everything that you do. Of course, you've got Ivan and you've got Daryl and Elijah and all the other ones with Urban Impact who are getting out in the district themselves and trying to get out and talk to you. But it's taken some time to sing the songs that are needing to be sung, to raise the hands and say, this is where I want to be and this is where I want things to happen. So we've got to continue to make sure. It's going to be a little different than what they did in Woodlawn because you don't have the built-in neighborhood because you're downtown. But there are other ways to do it here. You have huge advantages with the number of churches just within this district that I think you could easily take that porch party idea and take it into the churches here.
Or you can take it into your businesses, and it can be your first Fridays. And so if you're going into your businesses, this is an example of a community in Chicago called Andersonville. And what they did was they hosted events at each one of the individual businesses once a month to highlight that business so other business owners knew what type of businesses were in place and the opportunity to get the businesses to start networking with each other. That is an asset that you have right now. Open their doors. Also engaging the community through storytelling. There are wonderful stories here that are, beyond or before the Civil Rights Movement, after the Civil Rights Movement. So how are you really communicating what is special about this district through storytelling? I have an example here where you can work with children in the community to actually go out and take some pictures and talk about what they love about the historic 4th Avenue Business District. Really coming from the children's perspective to understand what it is that they like, but they can also interview their parents as an opportunity. Next slide.
We had a really fun one that we utilized that similar thing in it in one of our other communities, and it was an Instagram spot takeover. So we had the kids, this was in Heflin, I believe is where that happened, Little Town. But the kids actually took over the local program's Instagram account for that week. It was a hoot. And they've had guest Instagrammers. The kids are going to get into that and are really going to enjoy it. So that might be a way to do, because kids are more electronically, they're probably not going to be as excited about a disposable camera, but they're going to be real excited about taking pictures on their camera,
on their
cell
phones,
on their phone, and posting it on Instagram.
Yeah, that's a little dated, the disposable camera. And then also, how are you thinking about engaging the public, right? And so I just give you a little diagram here where when you're thinking about the public sector, that's the city government, that's the county, that's the state. How are you working with the public sector? But the private sector is always really thinking about those neighborhood stakeholders, the community, the foundations, the banks, the churches. All of those individuals should be tying together. That is the way that the Main Street approach will work really well. I can't see the other words, so I'm not going to try to read those. But I'm going to give you some examples of some public and private sector examples. This is from the Baltimore Main Street program. We have 8 main streets in Baltimore. So as we said, that the Main Street program works in both urban and rural settings. And so in Baltimore, what they understand is that they have a vast amount of anchor institutions, colleges, right? So they work very closely with Morgan State. They work very closely with Johns Hopkins. For Morgan State's fellowship program, the fellowship program actually places a fellow, and these are graduate level students, in one of the main streets for a 9-month period and pays them $10 per hour. Johns Hopkins actually provides some level of funding to some of the main streets that are in close proximity to that main street. Again, that is yet again that public-private example of how you can utilize your anchors to help build your main street. Next slide. Chicago, my hometown, University of Chicago. University of Chicago was not always seen as this entity that gives back to the community. So after so much and so much, so many difficulties working with the 8 surrounding communities, they really decided that they wanted to make certain that they were engaging with the 8 communities. All the communities in Chicago does not look like Hyde Park, particularly the 8 communities that surround the university. So what they did is also provide grant opportunities to some of the local CDCs that are managing commercial districts. They also, now this is something that a lot of anchors do not do. They will create a cafeteria and keep all their workers inside. What the University of Chicago does is for some of their executive employees, they make sure that they all have a credit card. Go back. They make sure they all have a credit card, and they encourage them to buy local. So they push them out to go buy at the local businesses that are in the district, within the 8 communities. Or if they're catering or hosting an event, they are encouraging that they work with the local restaurants that are within the 8 surrounding communities. They're also encouraging, connections with hiring local. So it's not only you go out and buy, but they're also trying to recruit individuals from the zip codes within the 8 surrounding communities. These are examples of how your universities can really start creating deep impact into the community. Now, next slide. When we talk about funding, remember, we did say that's something that's important. The funding needs to be diversified. And so for Boston is also one of our longest running, oldest urban main streets. They've been around for about 25 years, I believe, with 20 main streets. So the city of Boston has supported their main streets for quite some time through a citywide Main Street program, but they recognized that that wasn't a sustainable funding source. So what they were able to do is get banks together, and those banks started to adopt a main street. And they would also be able to provide some assistance to those main streets when the funding from the city was declining. So it's a way, yet again, to sustain something that the city found very valuable to keep. So it's called the Boston Main Street Foundation. It's a really good tool. Next slide.
So when you think about balanced funding sources, and we tend to follow the 30-30-30-10 rule. This goes a little bit different on that, but 30% within the public. That's your city, that's your county, that's public funds that can come into a district. Main Street is never meant to be not have some sort of public involvement. It's never meant to be not having a piece of that. But 30% funding from the business district. You need to be thinking about the greatest proponents of what you're being able to provide are going to be within the district. So the businesses themselves need to be involved. 30% community funding. Be thinking outside of the district. Someone who's excited about what you're doing and may want to help crowdfund, and we'll get in more specific examples here in a little bit. And then only about 10% should be fundraising. This organization, Urban Impact and the Historic 4th Avenue Business District, can't be fundraising all the time. They've got to get out and get some work done. So it's really important that you're not running away from them every time they come towards your business because we're having a garage sale or we're having a cookie sale or we're having my old PTA days, can you tell? When I was in the Parent Teacher Association, I said, please, I don't want to sell any more magazines. Can't we do something that people care about? So that's the part of funding that we're going to help you try to figure out your balance of. So when you think about it, think about how you're going to sell what the Main Street organization does. And this I learned when I was going through Certified Main Street Manager training years ago. You really need to understand what it means to the power company, because I saw somebody had an Alabama power bag over here. So what does it mean to the power company? When you turn on lights in businesses that haven't been open for a very long time, that's kind of important to the power company. They like that. So you need to approach it from that perspective. What does it mean to banks to get their CRA, their Community Reinvestment Act, covered by things that are happening within the district? So you really need to personalize it to the group that you're going to be trying to approach for funding. And one thing we probably didn't tell you is we'll be doing a whole report on this, so you're literally getting the tip of the iceberg tonight. But that became so helpful to me when I was a local Main Street director that we came back, changed how we were approaching different groups, and increased our funding by 25% in 1 year. Because we weren't just sending out the letter, please serve me, I have some more. We were being specific about what it meant to those different groups to approach them on their level and what they needed.
And fundraisers is something that we see as being successful. The Quad Communities Development Corporation is a CDC in Chicago. I didn't tell you my background before, but I worked for a major CDFI, and QCDC was one of my programs that I worked with. And when my funding started to dwindle, because I was a funder to them, they had to figure out different ways to get individuals to remain involved. And so what they did was they sent out this fundraiser to all of their friends. So regardless if I was a funder or if I was just an individual that lived in the Hyde Park area, I paid $100 to go to this event, and this was this was something that would help them move forward their arts project, move forward working with their small businesses. So these are yet again things that you can immediately get going. Send to a list of your friends and say, hey, come support us because we want to get that project off the ground.
So when you think about funding, it just went really
yeah,
fast, fundraising 101, you need to think about what product are you selling. So you're going to have to solidify that, but having that, understanding how to approach each different kind of constituent will help you with that. But also, who has a stake in your Main Street program? And it's much broader than you're probably thinking. And then you have to think about how do you make the ask? I can't read that from here.
I know, it's fun.
So how do you make the ask? So when I was a local Main Street director, our historic theater had been closed for years. We were trying to raise money for the theater. And that's where I learned that you can ask people for money, and if they say no, it really doesn't kill you. It really doesn't.
And sometimes it's just, no, not right now.
Exactly. So, and giving them several different options of, okay, no is really just one step closer to yes. If they're letting me in the door, that's the way to go. So we'll go through an entire fundraising piece in the written application. But I did want to give you guys a little bit of an idea for a dinner on common ground. And I think the thing that's important to remember in your district is nobody owns it. Everybody owns it. And it is a common area that everybody can feel comfortable with. So we're pitching this as something that you could do. I'm going to try to turn this so I can read it. To make the event truly a shared meal, consider having different organizations assigned to be a part of that meal. So maybe this church would say, hey, we'll do salads. And they would bring salads, and you set up tables in Kelly Ingram Park, and everybody's invited to be a part. Because people come together over food and over music. That's what they come together on. Another really cool idea was have the church choirs perform their best song, and then if all the church choirs could come together to sing one song combined to show common ground that we're all here together. It should be a ticketed event. And on this one, I think the ticketed event, you need to determine in advance what project it's going toward. So as much as we love Ivan, it's not going to be to pay Ivan. It's going to get a project done to get things accomplished within the district. Because then people will be more excited about coming and participating. Family-friendly games, think about having a 50-50 raffle, crowdfunding, pass a hat, and invite your alumni back. The Magic City Classic, we understand, some of the stores in the district make their whole year off the Magic City Classic. You got those people here, let's figure out how we can engage them while they're here. And we'll flesh that out much more in the written piece. And then volunteer piece is a very big part of where you're going to be coming and going with this project. Because while you do have staff, this isn't going to happen with just the staff. They have to have people in the district who are willing to help them. And we have purchased for all of our communities a CRM system called Maestro. So for those volunteers that are more techie and want to look at something at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can get into the Maestro for this district and see what work plans they have going on and say, hey, I could do that piece. I could be a project, I may not want to be on the committee, but this project piece, I'm all over that. So that's going to be a really great system for you guys to be able to check in on your time, what's going on in the district.
When you're thinking about your volunteers, you're always thinking about recruiting, retaining them, and celebrating them. All the time. And so this is a constant role. As Mary just indicated, sometimes some of your volunteers may want to get on a committee. I got some beautiful smiling faces there from Van Ness Main Street in DC, and again, District Bridges Main Street again in DC. But everybody is not going to be committed to show up to monthly or quarterly committee meetings. So you got to meet people where they are. I might just want to clean up, do a Saturday cleanup, or I may just want to take pictures, or I may just want to collect tickets at a festival. Meet people where they are. It is an opportunity to continue to get them involved. So recruitment, retention, and recognition is so important. But when individuals are coming to participate with you, they need to know what is expected of them. So what I have here are essentially quick job descriptions of each one of the committees. So if you're on a design committee, that's telling you that you're working on a sense of place. That's something that you'll be working toward. If you're economic vitality, you're really trying to create that vitality, et cetera, et cetera. But what's really important here is it tells the committee members how often they're meeting, what they're working on, what is expected of them, because then you don't have the issues later. Well, you didn't tell me I had to meet once a week. or once a month, and I needed to participate in the project. So you set those expectations up front, and individuals are never surprised. And then there are just a couple of opportunities, and Mary and I will share this. This is a volunteer fair that Carbondale uses at SIU. So what they do is SIU, each time they have a new group of freshmen that are coming in, they offer this volunteer fair to really get the kids involved with the city of Carbondale. So the Carbondale Main Street may get a volunteer from the college. There may be another entity. But these are the chances for the students, because most of the students have to do community service, right, at the colleges. They are connecting yet again within the community to make sure there's some impact.
And it's important that you answer the question of what's in it for me. And when we do your basic training here, there's a whole piece on this, why people volunteer. And some of it do it for camaraderie. That's typically mine. If Daryl calls me and says, hey, I really need your help on this. Daryl's my friend, I'm gonna probably do it, unless I'm like some out of town or whatever. I'm gonna try to do that because I like and respect him. So when you talk about volunteers, it is about that one-on-one communication. Most of us want to feel that camaraderie and being able to make a change in our district. So you need to kind of find out from that person what they want to get out of their volunteer effort.
And you always, as I said, recognize your volunteers. Now this is Boston Main Street, and this is this is the Geneva Main Street District. And what they do is they are an established Main Street, like again, I said, they've been around for 20 years. So they host a yearly award ceremony to really highlight and recognize some of their major leaders in the district. But there are ways that you can always do this. Just saying thank you for being here. Handwritten thank you cards always work. Printed newsletters and annual reports, really thanking your volunteers for being a part of it. Social media, really quick on Facebook, I want to thank volunteer so-and-so for coming out. Everyone wants to be thanked. I tell my husband that all the time, just thank me as often as possible, right? So make certain that you make people feel appreciated. And then communications, public relations. So I've heard a number of folks talking about a kiosk. How can we have a kiosk in a district where people can just point to figure out where they're going? Well, I'm showing you an example of a kiosk in Chicago. I ran a program called the Smart Communities Program, and in fact, both of these items are from the Smart Communities Program. And it was really to get more, get people more digitally, teach them how to be digital literate, but also get them more engaged with the community. And so the kiosks, there were 30 kiosks that were donated to LISC, the organization that I worked for, to be spread out in 5 communities within the businesses. So this was a donation that we got from HP. HP donated the kiosks to us. We put each one of the kiosks in a major point in each one of the communities that we were working in, and this was free internet access for individuals, so they would just be able to tap to figure out, well, where are some of the key locations? Where are the digital literacy trainings being hosted? So this is really something that you can do as well to highlight many of your businesses that are in the district, but also highlight some of your events. The Inglewood Portal, the little orange box in the middle, this is a neighborhood community news portal. So on this portal, what individuals are able to do is submit news stories, submit events, submit calendar events, and what it does is it goes to a portal manager who will approve it. Maybe they'll do a run through really quick of the stories, but these are stories of and from the community. So the Inglewood Portal really started to circumvent some of the negative images or negative things that people were hearing about the Inglewood community. Inglewood is in Chicago. It is one of our very low-income community, high crime rates, high unemployment. And so when you Google Inglewood, you would hear about the latest shooting, or you would hear about the latest crime. Inglewood Portal now, if you Google Inglewood right now, you will get their hashtag called Good in Inglewood. It is talking about what are the good things that are going on, and the community took it back. They did not let the news do it for them. They started telling their own story about what this community meant to them.
And to finish it out, boy, it goes fast, Tricia, you're up next. The organization's team really is to sell the Main Street philosophy. So we have put together a media kit for you already when we did the kickoff. I encourage you guys to continue adding to that media kit, because we do need to make sure you do have that outside news coming in, but you want to shape the story. So just like Dion was saying, you want it to be from your perspective. You really need to think about district marketing and how you're going to attack that. Reporting your progress, having talking points when people go out, showcasing success stories. Just a little bit of a did you know kind of thing. When you go in and out of some of these districts, you'd be surprised what's in your district. Yeah. We had a great time at her store. And it was a huge story. I mean, that's just going in there and spending time and visiting with her about why she's doing what she's doing and why it's important to be here. Everybody needs to hear that. I would encourage you to have block captains. This is a district where you have a wide age range and not everybody's going to do social media, so you need somebody who's going to be out there talking to people individually. So just because I put it on Facebook doesn't mean everybody cares. Not everybody does Facebook. So I really encourage you guys to have block captains. It's old school, but it works. And that's one person in each block. When Daryl would send somebody out saying, hey, there's something going on, that person would just go visit with their people in their block, which they're already doing, I guarantee you. So get that set up. We'll be coming back in and doing branding with you guys too. So we're going to be branding the district as well as the community area as well. And really go back to that, don't assume everybody is on social media or has electronic forms of communication. Some people don't like that. I get 100 or more emails a day. Do I read them all? No. and when I'm on resource teams like this, my inbox will be crazy huge. Right. So it can get lost really quick sometimes in electronic communication. So nothing beats going in and actually talking to somebody and hugging somebody and being able to get their story. So that's it for organization. Again, you get a much more detailed piece when we get the written report in.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's touching.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. My name's Trisha Black, and I'm here to talk about promotion. Some of the things that Mary mentioned and Dion mentioned will go hand in hand with some of the things that I'm going to talk about with promotion. So promotion helps reestablish the district as the center of commerce and culture, and they do that through promoting opportunities to shop, live, work, and invest in the district. Now, we all know that there's some issues right now, right, until we've got to overcome before we can actually have that vibrant district with all of our buildings filled to capacity. And some of our team members will go over what some of those issues are now, but what you can do, and I'm going to give you some examples now, all right, on how it's important to control your narrative. When I got here Monday night and Tuesday mornings, we started our visits, what did I know about this area? It was the civil rights history. I've learned there's so much more to this district, and those are the stories that you need to tell. And then you also need to control that narrative so that you can promote and talk about what is happening and what the energy and what's happening in your district. And you can do those things through these elements in promotion.